Hip hop is the driving force behind all of this. It's been these tech companies evolving the technology or the instruments would rather to make it more convenient. We evolve, we flip everything. Just take a look at what happened during this pandemic with Instagram, Everyone was locked in, but it took hip hop, Swizz Beats and Timbaland to create the verses.
And D Nice.
Yeah,
With
what
Club
what D
Quarantine,
Nice
yep.
did, and it's like there's no other music genre, there's no other culture out there who could take technology and turn it into something.
Whenever you lose control of distribution, I don't care who you are, record industry, editorial, advertising, film and television, whenever the gatekeeper has lost his key, then whatever you've been doing is going to change. I don't write, sing, produce, yodel, ham bone, nothing creative. And so I really could only find my goals in helping them achieve their goals. And so if you can tell somebody when it's right, you should be able to tell them when it's not.
The difference between a hit record and a good record is a good record is a good record, and a hit record is something that's been anointed by the fans. And the fans get to choose ultimately what's a hit record. And a good record doesn't mean that it's not a hit, it may not have access.
Understanding that we're all just trying to get to the same goal of some level of execution, some level of high execution.
Tricky Stewart, black man. No, I'm just kidding. Tricky Stewart, founder of Red Zone Entertainment, RZ3, Triangle Sound, producer, father.
Hey, we gonna do a voiceover in the garage.
You could have the right song. You could write the right song, but if you don't give it to the right person, then, or if that great song is on you and you're not a star, then it doesn't mean that it's not great. There's just a very big difference between me giving Umbrella, for instance, to Rihanna versus giving it to my homie.
No, we were rock stars too, though. And we still rock stars. What you mean? Like but we also carry the rapper side of it as well, though. And even now, like some of the new cats, they're still rappers as well. I just think from a marketing standpoint, they more or less market themselves as a rock star first, and then the music comes second. Whereas back then, we would market ourselves as musicians or as rappers first, and become rock stars from being a rapper.
It happened to us in the record business first, and which, not to get all philosophical on you, but I believe we kind of were shown that door because we are the most nimble business. We make very nimble decisions in such a big corporate behemoth, whereas editorial, movies, they all have advertising long runways or much longer runways for the decisions that they make, whereas we are affected in a much different way. So I think that by way of that, our experience, if anybody's paying attention, will teach our peers in other entertainment spaces and that you got to pivot. You have to change your approach. I think so long we were resistant to change, but you will either adapt or get eaten. Jimmy Iovine said something that I'll never forget. He told me that he was talking to Steve Jobs, and Steve Jobs told him that every business model is created to meet an end at some point. That's a sobering truth that if you embrace it, will probably put you in a much better position as opposed to if you fight the change.
Statues and statues and things that you have, you put those up?
Philadelphia is a city that's known for being trendsetters. I mean, first the rock butters, the first with the throwbacks. I mean, we wound up being the first with everything in a lot of regards. and Sherman Byers. I mean, I've been out here doing it for 30 years. Me and my brother Mark Byers. I think the thing that makes trends happen so much in the city of Philadelphia is the struggle. I think when there's struggle, there's creativity, and I think that's where the coolness comes from. I mean, someone can find a way to remain cool even if they're impoverished. They still can find a way to put cool on an impoverished scenario.
Gang with me, your main hitter couldn't hang with me. You get turned off the mission, they thought I was slipping. Your main hitter couldn't bang with me. I just hopped off the plane and brought a few chains, so best believe I got the flame with me. Flying city to city like Santa Claus. When we hit them all, we gon' buy it all. Whenever there's problems, we who they call. Cause whenever there's problem, we get them solved. Like a math teacher, say no when I talk, I'm the class speaker. I walked in the on like a 5 hitter. I say like a math teacher, say no when I talk, I'm the class speaker. Like a math teacher, say no when I talk, I'm the class speaker.
If a person has an audience, they're just trying to move the audience to figure out how they can get that algorithm to go their way, how they can get those streams going. And the idea is if you have an audience, you know, it's kind of like in business. They say if you have one win, if you have a win here, then you can equal a win there. And that's kind of the philosophy that the music business is doubling down on a bit. But at the end of the day, like, I don't know if that leads us to having the best music that we've ever had, you know, because there becomes a point where you have to have people who really are good at music doing music.
I think you're trying to keep you on the same melody.
Yeah, that's that's why I said racks up, cash, stacks of rack, whichever one first. And the last part of that bar is count 100 cash and I lay up.
The label artist relationship has always been a sticky situation, you know. People feel trapped.
There's definitely a blending of music going on, and that blending is of average music. Like all the music that's average stays in an average place, but it's all just not good enough. Then there's music, and music starts after those 80% of people cancel themselves out, and that part of it exists in the elite part of it. So whether it's Lil Baby, whether it's Da Baby, whether it's Ed Sheeran, whether it's Ariana Grande, whoever it is, all of them, they're fighting over the same number one spot. There's only one spot. They don't put a caveat next to it based upon what your genre is. It's just impact and how is it moving the people.
Then versus now, I may have wanted to take a chance on a certain artist, but being that it was done through a major, it had to be okayed, you know, by the major. They have to say, okay, well, let me hear some records by them, and then the major have to tell you, oh, I'm not sure, or they'll pass up on it and be like, nah, and then you basically shelf that artist. Whereas now, you might have a song and say, okay, you know what? We don't have a full project, but we do have this dope song, and let's give it a shot. There's no gatekeepers there that you have to answer to. We can just take the chance and bet on ourselves, put that one song out, and if it works for not only us, but you as an artist as well, then we say, okay, that worked, that was successful. Now let's look at how we can go further.
No, I like that one,
I just need that second line. The
Yeah, second line. That second line, all right.
Second line.
What you mean? Which one's the second one?
Listen, watch.
That one right there.
I don't like the 24. I don't like 24. I ain't telling my age. Listen
again, bro. Make sure. Listen. Bro, just get that second line.
Nah, look up. I ain't gonna say I'm 24. You ain't gotta put your age and shit on there like that, bro. Everybody's fine to create whatever you want to create. This is a world that lets you create what you want. But there's a difference between creating and creating for monetary gain. And when you decide to make your art for a sale, then it becomes about demographics, and it becomes about how do I ultimately drill down on the masses, you know, who can move the people. That's where the money goes. It's not necessarily that this work is better than that work. It just has to do with
ultimately you understanding what the job is once you decide to take money for your art form.
This is an industry where you bat 200, bat 250, and you're successful. You know what I mean? And I think that, you know, you don't really approach the decision-making process like that. But if you look at the end game, that's kind of the ratio of wins, at least from an entrepreneur.
Obviously, the phone has changed the game tremendously, just in general, from access. You know, the reason that we have so much is because we have so much. We have access so much, and where there were once gatekeepers to keep certain types of things out, now everyone has full reign. So, you know, the biggest thing I've had, you know, audience is the most important thing. It's not necessarily music that people are selling anymore in the music business. Sometimes they're selling audience. So they would rather a person like me walk in with a person that's a comedian that has 7.6 million followers and make an album on them than come in with somebody with 1,200 followers that can sing their ass off.
Before the internet video started showing, it was able to start showing people's lifestyles from around the country. So then it started opening up more, because a lot of people started being interested in other places then. They were not just about rap. Okay, oh wow, California, NWA, that's how it is in California? Oh wow, that's how it is down there in Houston with Ghetto Boys and all that. Oh wow, that's how it is down in Miami with Luke and those guys or whatever. So it started opening up at that point, and it made it a little bit, actually not a little, a lot easier at that point.
When you have worked that creative muscle, you know, really working with your creative, saying everything is great, but we might need to take another look at the hook, or when you've convinced that superstar artist that that isn't the song to sing, this is the song to sing, and that one works, you grow stronger from that. It's like, again, it's like working a muscle, it's like working out, and your confidence grows.
Producing is a competition to me. So it's like when I like my hits, but I know which one of my hits are not better than the other person's. There's certain people that just be like, I'm number one. But I know when there's certain records that come on and you're like, my mouth is open, because I'm like, how? How did that happen? How did that creation happen? You know, and that's the part that still has to wake you up in the middle of the night if you're a creator. It's just like, there's people out there creating shit that you just can't fathom. And when you hear it, it's supposed to have a reaction that humbles you and makes you hungry. But all number ones are not the same. You know, they're just not. Somebody's got to be number one every week. So it's just a matter of chart position and who did what. But so you can have number ones, but then there's Crazy in Love, and you don't have a record like that. You know what I mean? There's records like Single Ladies, No Scrubs. Like, those are different types of records. Don't Believe Me, Just Watch. Roddy Ricch's record that he just had. Like, there's so many records like Sicko Mode. Like, you may have a hit rap record, but you don't have that one. You know what I'm saying? And there's levels to this. You know what I'm saying? And the levels for me come from not the success of their chart position, but from the fact that when you hear my records, that you know that me and you are not the same.
This is a game of peaks and valleys, man. It's a game of runs. The key is to have yours. You know what I mean? And be very sensible when it takes place. We're all going cold at some point. We're all growing old at some point. It's just inevitable. You know what I mean? Even the greats that we speak of, Quincy Jones is probably the greatest producer of our time, and I don't think Quincy's made a record in 20 years.
Hey, just do the dream hard part, but after that, do what you do.
Because I think any and everybody feels like they can armchair quarterback and pick a song and pick a hit, but I think that muscle gets exercised when you do it. You're going to make a $20 call, and you're either going to be right and you're going to be wrong, and you're going to learn from that win or that loss. Well, you're not going to learn from the win. You only really learn from the L's, but the wins do give you confidence, the confidence and the kind of the wind at your back to then make a $200 call or a $2,000 call or a $20,000 call up to a $20 million call.
It necessarily don't mean a whole lot for you. It's going to more so affect those veterans that have the huge contracts, a lot of them going to be asked to take pay reductions.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of guys actually take pay cuts. You know, just because teams got to, especially in the case of Pittsburgh, they got to fight to stay and remain under the salary cap. And not only that, but they got to bring in new additions and some other pieces.
To compete at that level, you got to have players.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it's just a lot. Like I said, we had a call yesterday, and there's still a lot of unknowns.
I think mentorship management is, first and foremost, one needs to know where to manage their mentorship. You can actually put time into something and it doesn't necessarily bring a ROI to the scenario. And ROI doesn't necessarily have to be a monetary gain. ROI could be a gain in regards to maybe someone having more fulfillment or more out of life. We'll take the case of Freeway. Freeway's been a friend of me. I've been knowing Freeway since he was 13 years old. So when he got hit with his health crisis, I knew that he didn't necessarily have the infrastructure to help him make the journey. And I also knew that he had to figure out how to turn a negative into a positive.
You know, it's hard to say who comes in for the money or what percentage or anything like that, but what I can say is this. In my experience of being in this business, the people who sing, when you think about people who sing, particularly before, it's a church, it comes from church, right? And it comes from wanting to sing, and hip hop comes from the streets. And so you have this clash of mentality, which one could be R&B sometimes, and you deal with the singers. It's really, a lot of times great singers don't make it through because it's really about them trying to sing and trying to do that. A hip hop artist comes in, like in hip hop, the word hustle works simultaneously with hip hop. And I think that the hustle of hip hop does not allow them not to have success, even if it's the success that they don't desire at first. Whereas a hip hop with a singer might get caught up on the very first thing because someone wants them to sing a song that they don't love, but that song hits all the marks. So from that standpoint, I think that hip hop and rap music have an innate advantage because the result is about, they focus on the getting money part of music, and that becomes an extreme focus of a person who has come into the industry from a way that isn't based in musicianship, singing, playing the guitar, the drums, playing piano, whatever that is. I think it gives them an innate advantage.
95 South, nigga, stop it all. In the fender wall, other minivan, hand in hand, no fees. Gasoline, I back it lean, break a triple beam.
R&B has leaned into hip hop through melodies, through wanting to be cool. Like there's always a version of wanting to be cool, right? And hip hop and rap music is the coolest thing. Like every girl thinks they want a guy that's like got a little bit of street in him. He's got street smarts and this and that. And you know, it's changed society. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely changed society, and it's definitely changed R&B. And I think it put R&B on really weak footing over the years because it wasn't confident of who it was. And truthfully, every hip hop artist was just trying to figure out how to sing. Once they got auto-tune, they was like, well, I can do melodies, and you walked away from what it was that you couldn't do. That they've only sampled your music. You've never sampled theirs, right? So it's like, it's kind of like, almost like being a hamburger and wanting to be a turkey burger. It's like, you are the hamburger. Like, you know, the samples come from you. The culture comes from you. The fly shit came from you, and now you're running away from your space. And now while they ran away from that space, Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber and Bruno Mars and Ed Sheeran have run into it. and they've become your Michael Jacksons, and they're the ones that are pulling out the guitars. And like, there's a reason why hip hop is hip hop, and there's a reason why R&B is R&B. But once you put the instruments down, and you've put down the art of making music that touches people differently, then you've taken all your advantages off the table, because you can't outstreet a street nigga.
And so whenever I felt that passion waning, is when I really pushed myself to figure out where I could find a new passion and a new connection point vis-a-vis a pivot. I think the pivot is much harder as you get older. When you're younger, you don't know you're pivoting. You don't know, you can't really feel it. There are no kids, there are no tuitions, there are no homes, there are no mortgages. There's a very streamlined way of thinking. You know, at the end of the day, you can go sleep on your homeboy's couch if you need to get back on your feet. Whereas when you get older, obviously you have more things to take into account. And I think, moreover, you know, when you have achieved some level of success, that can become the boogeyman when you are pivoting also, because you want to mirror where you're going against where you come from. And realistically, outside of the lessons and the jewels that came from where you come from, one thing doesn't have anything to do with the other. You have to consistently remind yourself of that. I call it fighting the magnet, because the magnet will make you get up and want to go back to where you came from and where it was comfortable, even though it may not be working anymore. And now you have to really force yourself and realign your thinking to actually consciously pivot, as opposed to when you were younger. You just moved wherever your spirit took you.